How we doing, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here. It's July 8th, 2025 at the time of the video first dropping, and just mere hours before the Mets kickstart their three-game set in Baltimore against the Orioles. And we have a lot of positive news to get into in our latest Big Mets update segment here, folks, because not only is that man beside me that you guys see there in Jesse Winker returning to this Metropolitan team back in the lineup as soon as tonight there against those O's, but we're going to break down Winker, his immediate impact, why Mets fans should be oh so excited about him returning, what the likely corresponding move is going to be, and then from there we're going to get into the trade front. As we know, the Mets are absolutely involved not only for starters but relievers as well leading up to the MLB trade deadline, and reporting has dropped over the past 24 hours to suggest that not only are the Mets going to be adding relief pitching, but they're going to be adding a reliever soon, much sooner than a starter as a matter of fact. So we're going to get into that, where it stems from, what reliever that potentially could be for this team. And speaking of relievers, the Mets just called up a flamethrower there from AAA Syracuse. I'm ecstatic to break down that being and Mr. Alex Carrillo there, most recently of AAA Syracuse. We'll get into Carrillo, his fantastic story, his immediate impact at the major league level, and why a lot of Mets fans could very well see this man as a mainstay in the bullpen versus just being that quick call up and send down in a 24-hour span. That and much more is what we're going to break down in our latest segment, everybody. So thank you kindly for hitting that like and subscribe on your way in, as we have you covered for all things Mets all season, off season, postseason long, you name it, here on the WardyNYM platform. Shout out to our amazing sponsors at SeatGeek. If you guys want to save 10% off your next ticket purchase, check them out. Link down below with our promo code WARDY10. Awesome friends here at BetUS that we'll be getting into a little bit later in the show that has you covered on the sports betting and casino front, but make sure you guys do it responsibly. And of course, Moomoo, the official trading platform of the New York Mets. Guys, thank you so much for hearing from all of them throughout the course of the season, as you guys have done plenty if you've been a follower of the platform. And thank you also for hearing from your guy Wardy here, as we have a big announcement to share with just a couple weeks away from it in fact becoming a reality. Listen up, everybody. It's Wardy here, and as you can see, we are at gorgeous Citi Field, and folks, you can get the ultimate, the prime experience with your guy Wardy at our first ever official Wardy Day. August 1st, Mets San Francisco Giants there for the evening game. The day after the MLB trade deadline, you, your friends, your loved ones, select Mets fans will get the ultimate experience with your guy Wardy. Not only are we going to hang out at the ball game together, but folks, look at the seating. We're going to be live here in the left field lounge. You guys will be able to chop it up with your guy Wardy. We're going to be debating as to who's the best pitcher of the rotation outside of Senga. We're going to be talking about who's the next best prospect to get called up. How do we feel about the trade deadline acquisitions? And guys, as you get back up here then, we are going to be giving you a $18 drink voucher, and with that drink voucher, you guys are going to be able to hit up the bars that we have right outside of here. So easy, so accessible. Again, prime seating, a truly fantastic experience. Our first ever Wardy Day here at Citi Field, guys, where you will get a chance to hang out with your guy Wardy. And the best part too, not only is it this amazing lounge in left field that you guys will hang out with me, but we're going to be on the field, pre-game access there for a group photo op. So I hope to see you, all you amazing Mets fans there. Click the link if you guys haven't already there to check out our available tickets, and let's go Mets. And not only are we going to be sitting here throughout the course of the ball game, you guys can also check out these seats that we have access to all here in the bar area here, right at the Milagro, where you guys can utilize your $18 drink voucher. Again, this is going to be at Wardy Day, August 1st, 2025. Oh wait, yeah, almost forgot. It's also fireworks night. Bang! Hope to see you guys there. Awesome. So again, as you guys can see, Wardy Day just a couple weeks away now, August 1st, a day after the trade deadline. What are you waiting for? If you want to hang out with your guy Wardy there throughout the entirety of the ball game, and again, we're going to be live there from Citi Field as well, doing probably our latest post-game show with whoever is around me in our actual section there. I think it's going to be an absolute blast. Cannot wait to make that happen, everybody. The first of many that we'll be doing at Citi Field, not just this season, but in the years going forward. But now, guys, without further ado, let's kickstart today's conversation by getting into Mr. Jesse Winker. As you guys can see beside me. If you guys have been a follower platform, you know very well I'm a big Jesse Winker fan. He was such an easy guy that you love to hate during his time with the Cincinnati Reds, the Seattle Mariners for that short stint. Of course, he still torched Mets in that time. Remember Patrick Mazeika when he was hitting bombs for the Mets in that series against Seattle a couple years ago? I know I do. And Winker was hitting bombs in that series as well. The same way that Jesse, pretty much every stop he's been at, has always had a nice back and forth with fans, you know, and has really been a true villain at times, but at the same time has made known how much he enjoys Mets fans. Jesse Winker being officially activated by the Mets today is important because, as I broke down in yesterday's video, it's not just the on-field product you get in Jesse, because that in itself is very important. It's what you're also getting in Jesse when it comes to the vibes. This is a man who spoke in a recent interview that we saw with the Mets organization over this past week that stated that out of my entire career, I've never been having this much fun and enjoying myself as much as I have here with the Mets. And he hasn't even been a Met for more than a calendar year, mind you. So it's really impressive to see how much of a positive impact Winker has had not only on the Mets, but how much the Mets have had on himself. And that alone is why you're going to get the best out of these players for guys that actually want to be here. That's why Jesse was down to sign with the Mets in any which way, shape, or form to be on this roster in some capacity, regardless on what their structure was going to be heading into the season, because of the unfinished business the Mets had to a degree last year in 2024. But as you guys can see here, officially unofficial at the time of this dropping, it first came out there from Anthony DeComo of SNY. He tweeted out, but he's very cryptic. His tweet and basically said how Ronnie Mauricio has in fact stayed on the roster. What that means is, everybody, the corresponding move for Jesse Winker, and I played on X earlier, the one highlight that I decided to run was Jesse Winker hitting that opposite field bomb to walk it off against the O's. I think it's fitting that we're running that highlight there right before that series starts at the time of this video recording. Shout out to Helmet Slam and Jesse. And that kickstarted the Mets. They got a series win against the O's last summer, and then they had a positive road trip when they were in that gauntlet of San Diego, Arizona, and then Chicago against the White Sox. I know you guys remember because I was there too, covering it at the time of it happening. But Jesse Winker coming back is great, and the corresponding move is going to be either Starling Marte placed on the injured list, which no one should be surprised about if you've been following the platform. That's kind of making sense with him having that knee flare up, knowing that you just have a week left to play before the All-Star break. If you are going to place Starling Marte on the injured list, now is the time to do so. So fully anticipate it to be either Starling Marte to be officially on the injured list or Travis Jankowski, the Mets pinch runner, will be DFA. Now, I know the Mets value Jankowski and that pinch running ability, but they've also utilized him very little since he's actually signed and been called up with the club. Even less than what the Mets were doing with Luis Angel Acuna when he was on the roster, mind you. And that was the whole reason as to why Acuna sent him down, so he could get more consistent playing time, and Jankowski can basically fit those shoes and fit that role as a pinch running option and a late game defense replacement in the outfield is what Jankowski is. So whether it's Janky getting the DFA, which is unfortunate for him, but might in fact be a reality, or the injured list, it's going to be one of those two things that you guys see transpire today. So be on the lookout for the official word by the Mets themselves. But that is for certain happening. Now, Jesse Winker, was there to know about him outside of the vibes? Because if you guys have been following the platform, you know that this man can be absolutely electric, and he is electric, specifically when we take a look at just Winker's abilities. And he hasn't done anything too crazy with the Mets in his tenure. Actually, if we look at a total of 68 games as a New York Met from last season, this season, 207 play appearances, he has a 242 average, a 319 on base, and a just under 400 slug, good for a just over 700 OPS. Not overly ideal, but at the same time, in a platoon and limited sample size there as a pinch runner off the bench and a platoon DH there bang from the left side, it's not like Winker's getting endless opportunities here, right? But he might get more now going forward, as we know, with him returning. As we saw last season specifically, though, when he first arrived with the Mets, he didn't put up as productive numbers as he did with the Nationals because he was in a more of a limited sample size. His OPS actually dropped by 100 points from the Nats to the Mets last year, but this season thus far, and what is a smaller sample size of 24 games, does have a 738 OPS and an over 400 slug. So if that power can be tapped into the way that Jesse was hitting home runs that we saw, he had a towering double that was just shy of a home run for the Brooklyn A Cyclones when he was playing in rehab. Then he hit a bomb without a problem for the Rumble Ponies. Then he had a bomb first pitch without a problem there for Syracuse just like 48 to 72 hours ago. Winker is ready to return this Mets team, and I cannot wait for not only the vibes, the aura, but ultimately the great personality and clutch ability that comes with Jesse Winker, a player who wants to be here and will do everything in his humanly possible power to make himself a productive player each day for this Mets team. His bat is quality. I honestly love his at-bats. He might be rusty this series, and that's okay. It's going to happen. But I love the quality of at-bats Winker takes when he's best. And knowing how deep of a lineup this is for the Mets already, I think we're going to see a guy like Jesse really get off to the right foot, hopefully, barring changes. But going on now from Jesse Winker, everybody, let's get into now what is happening with the Mets and the trade front. Because as we know, there are trade rumblings that are going on that have transpired over the past 24 hours, and they go in direct hand with what I'm going to show you guys right here, right now. In case you guys did not see this, let me enlighten you here just for a second, everybody. And this also comes courtesy of Andy Martino of SNY this past day. No matter how much you love it or hate it when it comes to Andy, he does have his sources, and he does certainly know what he's talking about when he's relaying this information. So listen up to what Andy has to say. Apologies, everybody. Making sure the audio is all set up here without a problem. Okay, I think we're good.
Which trade is more likely to happen sooner for the Mets, getting a starter or reliever?
Definitely reliever. It was July 10th last year that David Stearns and company traded for Phil Maton. I'm told, this isn't just me referring to last year, that we could see a relatively impactful reliever trade fairly early in the month. That doesn't guarantee it, but that's a contrast to the starting pitching market, which, especially when the Mets were losing a starting pitcher, it seemed like every day a few days ago, they were calling around for starting pitching. They were talking to the Pirates about Mitch Keller, or to the A's potentially about a Luis Severino, or trying to do these things, but sellers don't sell starting pitching generally until the very end of July. David Stearns could choose to get ripped off today on the starting pitching market, but he's not going to do that. He's going to wait till the end of the month. Relievers could be a different story.
So that's notable here for Manny, and here's why, everybody. We know that a starter is not going to be traded to the Mets anywhere earlier than the week of the MLB trade deadline, if not the day of the deadline itself on July 31st, that we will be covering entirely on the platform throughout the day, a massive live stream, so make sure you guys are on the lookout for that when it happens in a couple weeks from now. But the reason why Andy emphasized the Mets, from what he's hearing, are going to be acquiring more than likely a reliever sooner than later is factual, because the Mets are in dire need of arms. We know this. They need more guys of high leverage opportunity, and they most certainly can utilize another lefty in that pen that isn't a guy by the name of Dickie Lovelady, or what the Mets have had in the past in Jose Castillo, among others. They need stability there. And while Brooks really is fully anticipated to return this Mets bullpen post All-Star break, you still want to add more quality in said pen. Whether that is going after the likes of, we're talking maybe a top flamethrower like a Aroldis Chapman, who we know when we've linked with the Mets over the past season, because mind you, David Stearns offered Aroldis Chapman a 1-year, $8 million contract to begin the 2024 season before he ultimately signed there for $2 million more with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Chapman had a productive year for the Pirates, got traded to the Royals last year, and that was that before now having a otherworldly season to this point for the Boston Red Sox. Chapman has been one of the best relievers in the game this year, no denying it whatsoever, and he, along with Edwin Diaz, and this is why I continue to beat this drum, the Mets can make this happen after one of the most hot commodities of a rental reliever out there. Chapman is the guy to do so. Not only does he have all the championship pedigree as a two-time World Series champion with the Cubs and with the Texas Rangers, he's also a man that knows what it takes to win in New York, regardless of the bombs he's given up to Jose Altuve just because he wanted to absolutely rain on Yankees fans in their parades and playoff runs over the years. Chapman knows what it takes to win in New York. He understands the big market. He's been here long enough to handle it. He's handled the Boston market without a problem as well. So regardless on how you guys feel about Chapman on a personal level, I'm here to tell you that there's a great reality that the Mets could actually find themselves landing him, and should they do so, find me a better 1-2 punch of a reliever duo out of the National League than Aroldis Chapman in the 8th inning and Edwin Diaz in the 9th inning. Newsflash, you're not going to find in anybody. Them at their best is a absolutely absurdly lethal 1-2 punch. And I would like to make clear, if a trade is going to happen, say within this next week or so for a reliever, it's hard to envision it being Chapman just by the likes of, if you're the Boston Red Sox, you've been having your winning ways as of late, you're not fully committed to be a seller at the deadline yet, the Red Sox are going to probably wait up until the deadline itself to make these proper moves, as if they're going to be at all buyers or full-blown sellers. In the case of other teams, however, that have already been written off to a degree, I look at the team that Andy mentioned just a second ago, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. They have two relievers right now that are 1,000% going to be traded, and David Bednar and Mr. Santana. Dennis Santana, remember when he was a Met, guys, and wasn't all that great? Well, Dennis Santana is having a bit of a revelation of a season this year for the Pirates, and David Bednar is really picking up the weight after having a down 2024 season. Both guys would be fantastic. I shouldn't say fantastic, but would be nice options for the Mets bullpen. I personally would like Bednar more. He has more of the track record versus Santana. I would have my levels of concerns as to where the consistency would be with someone like him. But David Bednar, I like a lot. There's an abundance of arms to choose from there right now when we look at teams that'll be selling. But the problem is there aren't too many clear-cut sellers right now. You have the bottom feeders out of the American League to a degree and some of the National League, but there's so many teams that are fringe playoff clubs at the time of us coming out with this video that we have yet to really ponder and figure out truly what arms the Mets are going to go ahead and grab. It wouldn't shock me if David Stearns did a very David Stearns thing and landed a reliever, say from the Miami Marlins like he did with Oscar Brosnan last year, but a guy that maybe you don't know too well, but actually gives you solid innings. I don't know if it's going to be a guy that's going to light the world on fire like Chapman, or if he falls more in the category like Maton, where when the Mets first pick him up, you're saying to yourself, I don't love what we're getting here, but then you realize, oh, Phil Maton just casually went 20 plus innings for us with, like sub 2 ERA ball. No one can complain there, because that's what Maton did throughout the great stretch of the summer last year. year. The only reason why we have a sour taste in our mouth when we talk about Phil Maton as an option for this Mets team in the bullpen from a year ago is because of him becoming batting practice against the Brewers there in postseason play. I mean, he just did not have it, and those meatballs were certainly served up big time, but he helped the Mets tremendously with their bullpen, carried the weight there throughout good stretches last season, and the Mets are going to need guys to help carry the weight now leading up to the trade deadline. So be prepared, everybody, whether it's a guy as great as Chapman or someone that's more of a guy that needs a change of scenery that's having some struggles this year with whatever team he's on. Be on the lookout. They will more than likely be acquiring a reliever here in the coming days. I'd imagine we will find out an official announcement sometime over the All-Star break if I'm a betting man. I think that's prime time as well when there are no games going on, unless something happens earlier that will break down the platform here as we always do. But going on now from talking about a reliever that the Mets are going to be acquiring, let's get into one that they officially called up today, that being Alex Carrillo, because this has me pretty darn excited. I can't lie to you guys, and there's good reason for it. As you guys can see here, Alex Carrillo, guys, gets the official call by the Mets, and it's a big one because Carrillo has been fantastic in the Mets minor leagues this year, and he's a tremendous story. He's a 28-year-old veteran right-handed arm who first started his professional career that we saw with the Texas Rangers, actually, and A-ball back in 2019. From that point on, he was MIA at the minor league level as he would play multiple years in indie ball and actually signed with the Mets out of Venezuela this past offseason. Carrillo, who is not only in AA but also AAA for the Mets this year, has been nothing short of jaw-droppingly good. In 25 innings playing time with those respective levels, including 5.2 scoreless innings in Syracuse, he's allowed just 15 hits, 8 walks, 9 total earned runs, 40 strikeouts, a tremendous K to walk ratio, which I love. He has over 14 strikeouts per 9 this season to a 2.8 walks per 9. And a 3.24 ERA. So what are you getting, Carrillo, everybody? As you guys can see from the highlights yourself, you are getting a crafty kind of sidearm slot from this right-hander, everybody. Just take a look at that release point there. Nice little sidearm slot is what you're getting, Alex Carrillo. Well, it's a disgustingly good, a flame-throwing fastball, everybody, that literally tops out 100 to 101. He's sitting high 90s on the gun between his fastball and his sinker, anywhere from 97.5, 98, all the way up to 100, 101, even possibly 102, where he got close in the Venezuelan league this past offseason, everybody. But Carrillo has looked fantastic at the minor league level. And funny enough, as we just talked about some other call-ups that the Mets finally brought up to the AAA level, some people in my chat have been like, you got to talk about Alex as well. This is a guy that could impact them soon. And you're right. Here we are, everybody. Alex Carrillo is now going to be at the major league level. And you know how I was bullish on Rico Garcia being called up because I like that signing when the Mets made it, and Rico went casually 2 scoreless innings for the Mets in his debut. I'm not saying I told you so, but I'm kind of saying I told you so there. In the case of Alex here, everybody, I'm telling you right now, this feels like the Danilo Nunez 2.0 for 2025. This has the makings of it at absolute minimum. And what I mean by that is Nunez was a man who's more of a career minor leaguer, indie ball guy that really did not get much of any look at the major league level. David Stearns gives this man a look last year because he sees a fastball touching the 100 and a slider touching the high 80s, low 90s, and says, let's just see what happens. And Nunez was fantastic for the Mets in his limited sample size last year of 20 to 30 plus innings. Nunez, as we know, is awaiting official word, but will likely sustain Tommy John surgery and have him out for the remainder of the season, barring changes this year, which is very unfortunate. But in the case of Carrillo, guys, health has been good, knocking on wood at this point. He's had tremendous impact in the zone, not only with that four-seam fastball and sinker, but then he casually will just throw you a mid-80 slider, which really throws you off when you're throwing north of 100, mind you. That cutter's nasty, too. That will be sitting right around 87. And then he has the changeup, which sits 90. So, again, this guy has a nasty arsenal, a truly flame-throwing arsenal of a right-hander, and this is all the makings, in my opinion, to not just be a call-up where the Mets are happy with what they see, but as long as he doesn't completely get rocked right away, potentially in the series against the Orioles, he could be a true mainstay in this Mets bullpen, everybody. We're looking at a guy that has high leverage upside. That is how good Carrillo looks right now that we're seeing the minor league level, but the Mets need to make sure that a guy who hasn't pitched in the minor leagues outside of indie ball since 2019 had to get respective looks there starting in AA. He dominated AA with the Rumble Ponies this year, which warranted the call up to AAA, and AAA, but he didn't allow a single earned run in roughly 6 innings pitched. So that is what it's going to take to get caught up to this Mets bullpen with all the influx that they've had this year, the constant carousel of bringing new relievers and cutting guys on the same day. Carrillo, though, feels like he's going to most certainly fall in the category of being a guy that's actually going to be here to stay for a bit. Hopefully it's not a one and done. If it's a one and done, it's just because he gets rocked and it didn't work. But if Carrillo looks like what he's been all year long in the minor leagues, then this is absolutely a lethal weapon for the Mets to not only utilize, but potentially actually impact them greatly throughout the entirety of now the second half of the season, everybody. So be be on the lookout for Alex, who may toe the rubber as soon as game 1 against the Baltimore Orioles, if not game 2 or game 3 of that series, everybody. But you guys let me know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts on Alex Carrillo and what the Mets are getting here? And be very interesting. I honestly think it's going to be a nice, kind of crafty, but flame-throwing kind of sidearm right-hander. And going back to his numbers a bit more, as you guys can see here, this is courtesy TJ Stats for anyone that cares about more of the advanced numbers here to look at, as you see what his pitch breakdown there. And to the right, as you guys can see in TJ Stuff Plus, this is TJ, who does a great job. Thomas, who basically has his own system and app, actually, to break down on a scale of 100, how would this pitcher be with his pitching grades? If you're above 100 on your pitch, that means you're above league average, and there's respective leagues. If you're below 100, then you're below league average. As we take a look here, everybody, every single one of Carrillo's pitches this year in the minor leagues have been above league average. That's important to make note. Then you look at the velocity that you guys can see right here, and also his arm slot and pitch placement. Very, very interesting when you look at that change of placement, especially where it's coming out of with the release point. And then you guys see here, just nasty stuff. I think the Mets have something special here in the making. And Alex, I would love to know your thoughts about him in the comments down below. But now, guys, going on from talking about Mr. Alex, let's get into a couple more topics to share, which has to do with some very positive news on the front of Kodai Senga and Manaea. Because as we broke down yesterday, Kodai Senga is expected to return to this Mets team as soon as Friday. And that has been reaffirmed here from Mike Puma, who did state there when asked about, let's see, Hamill and shout out Hamill, because I know he's a follower of mine on X too. Puma for the New York Post states Senga's expected scheduled to throw a bullpen tomorrow. That being, and today, let me make sure I have it right. Wednesday is when he'll be doing the bullpen. As long as there's no setbacks, he'll be ready for Friday. Manaea will be towing the rubber tonight, and what will hopefully be his final rehab outing there that you guys will see of the season. Should that be the case, he'll return this Mets team and tow the rubber in their final game before the All-Star break this Sunday in Kansas City. And shout out to Danny Abriano there of SNY. Danny, follower of mine as well. Hope he's well. And he has some really good takes at times regarding this Mets team. And this is a notable one, not as much a take, but just a reality of how well Ronnie Mauricio has performed over a stretch of games, which is why Ronnie is not leaving this Mets team, at least as of now, understandably so. And it's going to be very interesting to see if the Mets maximize Jeff McNeil's ability in center, because Tyrone Taylor's been a dead bat the past couple weeks, and having Ronnie at second with Beatty at third and Mark at DH. I think that's what the Mets should be doing. Then you have Jesse obviously DHing two based on matchups, so kind of platoon from one to another type thing. That makes a lot of sense. You want to give Ronnie more continued playing time. Now's an opportunity to still do so, actually. And as you can see, he's reached base safely in his past 9 games with a slash line of 370, 452, and a 556. You know, that's really good, guys. That's right around 1,000 OPS, so you're never going to see Wardy complaining about that. But now when it comes to Ronnie Mauricio, there are 2 things that need to get better. The base running has been horrendous, but he can steal you 20 plus bags in his sleep, but he won't do it without getting caught half the time, it feels like. Ronnie's situational awareness when it comes to base running is very poor. He's very raw as a talent, and he needs to work on that more. Defensively, we know he's had some hiccups as well. Not a huge liability out there. Ronnie's turned playing double plays without an issue, but we know from time to time he's had some hiccups. So the defensive and base running game is something that Ronnie needs to obviously continue to work on, but we know he has a bat-first mentality that plays up to the major league level with what we're seeing right now. His at-bats are far more quality than what they were when he first got called up. He's finally starting to get comfortable, and I think it's notable in the case of Ronnie, a guy that first impacted the Mets in 2023 when he made his debut then. This is a guy that has always had a plus bat. We've always seen the potential with it, but now we're seeing him actually start to take more pitches and have quality at-bats. And I think a really impressive note on Mauricio is what he did just a couple of games ago there against the Yankees. Comes in a pinch hit late in the ballgame for Mark Vientos, gets on right away. That was a nice little rally starter for the Mets that inning. Then Mauricio in his second at-bat gets a hit as well. He goes 2 for 2 as coming in as a pinch hitter later in the ball game for Vientos. And Mark, who only has 2 hits since being back up with his team with injury, he has been absolutely abysmal. Love Vientos, but he is such a shell of what he was a season ago. It's a shame to see, and I'm not sure what's going to get him out of that other than his own self-confidence and his obvious swing adjustments that he needs to make, because his swing looks longer and lankier than it really ever has, going back to when he was first called up by the Mets a couple years ago. So I'm interested to see what is next for Mark and his tenure with the Mets this season. But in the case of Tell the youngins, everybody, Ronnie Mauricio is here to stay. And as the Mets will look to obviously acquire key starting pitching by the trade deadline, teams are going to be asking more than likely for one of those infielders that the Mets have an abundance of. And Mauricio, Vientos, Beatty, Acuna, and potentially to a degree in their top prospect, and Jet Williams. Which player out of those group of players that we just mentioned would you be most comfortable with the Mets trading if they had to do so for the sake of acquiring more immediate starting help? Let me know in the comments down below in regards to that, everybody. And again, thank you all so much for watching, as that is going to conclude our latest Big Mets update segment. Be on the lookout as we will have more content dropping for you guys later on today. I will actually be live on Draft Deck Mark's YouTube channel and in the Playback app. Go head over to playback.tv/DraftDeckMark. You guys can check that out. Mark, who's a great friend of mine, who's on the platform all the time. You guys know him from Mets Up in his podcast. Mark is doing the Playback stream, and we're kind of alternating. We'll do like 1 week he'll be on my platform, the next week I'll be on his. So he was on ours this past week with not only he, myself, and Mike from Stark Raven Sports, but today Mark will be live on his platforms. I will be joining him. So if you guys want to check me out on Draft Deck Mark's YouTube channel or in his Playback, you can check it out. Head over to playback.tv with his link, especially guys, to check out. And I'll see you there throughout the majority of the Mets game tonight against the Orioles. Then I will have post-game coverage for you guys later on today. And then you guys will see more content tomorrow in the coming days, all throughout the week here regarding this New York Metropolitan team. And we will have some key prospect updates to get into Manaea as well. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Let me know all your key takeaways in the comments down below. This is your guy, Wardy, signing out. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out, everybody. Have a great one.